Today we are going to discuss about the age-old Sree Padbhanabha Swami Temple of Travancore, a temple dedicated to Lord Vishnu in Anandashayanam posture. A few years back, the New Yorker asked me the antiquity of this temple. I told him that it was in the 9th century AD that the temple was constructed, particularly the shrine of Tiruvambadi inside the Padmanaba Swami Temple. Even in latest Supreme Court judgment, this antiquity has been generally accepted, and from 9th century to the present tells us the story of Lord Padmanabha and his Padmanabha Dasas. The debate assumed significance in 2007 when T.P. I.P.S. filed a suit in the District Court and subsequently in the High Court of Cochin regarding the ownership and the right for management of the temple. It was held by the Travancore royal family ever since 1750, January 20th. It was on the 20th of January 1750 that the temple had been reconstructed and renovated by the then ruler Sree Marthandavarma, who was treated as the builder of modern Travancore. He dedicated the temple to Lord Padmanabha on the ground that it was Lord Padmanabha who gave him sufficient strength to carry on his policy of conquest, annexation and modernization. It was a period in which many rulers from outside Travancore state had come to this part, and they all contributed their wealth and valuables to the temple hundi. Not only that, Marthandavarma himself had conquered many smaller regions, principalities like Thekkangur, Vadakkangur, Chembasheri, Cherthala, down to Ernakulam. He was also in long battle with Kayankulam, Kollam, Deshanganar Rajas from time to time. All these finally brought him to be the ruler of Travancore, a state which was carved out of the old Venad, which has had its capital in Kollam. It was because Kollam happened to be the capital that the new era started in 825 AD began to be called as Kollam era. In those days, the kingdom had its boundaries from Kollam to Kanyakumari. Subsequently, the kingdom got enlarged, and finally, under the Kulasekaras, it began to become a force to be reckoned with in Kerala society and politics. After the period of the Portuguese, the Dutch stepped into the shoes of the Portuguese in this part of Cochin and Travancore. When Marthandavarma, after crushing his rivals, particularly the sons of the late King Ramavarma, was responsible for conquering the whole of Travancore, just because his ancestral family had a headquarters in Tiruvidankot, the family got the name Travancore. And it was out of Venad that Travancore began to become a reality, became a model state at the All India level. It was after his conquest and annexation and subsequent consolidation that Marthandavarma dedicated the entire Travancore kingdom to Lord Padmanabha on the 20th January 1750, and Martandavarma governed the state as a dasa, as a servant of Lord Padmanaba. And it was Martandavarma again who was responsible for reconstructing the temple, including the one stone idol and also many of the pillars erected in and around the temple complex. The temple idol was made of 12,008 salagramams brought from Nepal, from the borders of the river Ganges and other important rivers. We find that the temple had 7 gopurams, towers, constructed by Martandavarma during those days. And it was perhaps after the 1696 big fire. The temple idol itself was destroyed. Now Martandavarma saw that the temple idol was reconstructed. Temple itself was reconstructed with all paraphernalia expected of a modern temple, exactly in the same way as the Brihadeshwara temple of Tanjavur was constructed by Rajaraja the Great, and it was continued by Rajendra Chola. So Lord Padmanabha's temple of Trivandrum became an important one. It was also during his and the period of his successor Dharmaraja that Hyder Ali Khan and Tipu Sultan invaded Malabar. For fear of conversion, many of the rulers of Malabar, numbering more than about 60, had come to Travancore for asylum, fearing conversion, forced conversion by Tipu and his predecessor Hyder Ali Khan. And those rulers stayed in Travancore and Trivandrum not for a day but for 25 long years. During those 25 years, those Malabar rulers also dedicated and made many endowments to the Lord Padmanabha temple, and the net result of which is the invaluable wealth, measuring about 1.5 crores, 1.5 lakh crores of gold worth valuables. This temple wealth was preserved in half a dozen boxes or cellars behind the seat of the Lord. But these cellars were not open for a long time. The first evidence we have for the opening of this temple was in 1931 or so. But the temple valuables had not been really inventoried. It was all these issues that was raised by T.P. Sundararajan. Apart from that, the heir apparent prince of Travancore, Martandavarma Uttaradam, was also able to submit a memorandum to the court that he and his brother inherited the throne from times immemorial, and as such he had full right and privilege for owning and administering this temple. Uttaradam Tirunal Martandavarma submitted that it was a private property of the Travancore royal house. It was perhaps this submission that the temple was a private property of the Travancore royal family that antagonized many sections of the society, that we see many writs filed in the High Court and Supreme Court from time to time, on the ground that it was not private property but public property. When Martandavarma, Uttaradam Tirunal Martandavarma breathed his last on the 16th December 2013, the next Maharaja or the next prince of the Travancore royal family, Sree Tirunal Ramavarma, submitted a fresh affidavit. In this particular affidavit, he had clearly stated that the temple wealth was public property and not his personal. And perhaps this type of a change of attitude by the members of the royal family in a way helped in a very, very favorable judgment in honor of the Travancore royal family in the recent judgment delivered by UU Dalit and Indar Malhotra on the 20th July 2020. In this particular judgment, UU Lilith clearly stated that the king or the heir apparent prince or the Travancore royal family, which has declared the Padmanaba Swami Temple as a public temple, is really a person who enjoys a right what we call Shebait. Shebait, S-H-E-B-A-I-T, in English constitutional documents is a word used for referring to the manager of the temple. This particular manager or Shebait is not just an officer of the temple, is not an salary earning member, but he is one who has creative interest in the idol and temple. The idol, according to constitutional norms of the High Courts and Supreme Courts, is a minor. But this minor is endowed with prolonged rights and privileges, what we call Shebait. The last ruler of Travancore, namely Chitradinal Balramarma, ruled the state from 1931 to 1949. After the state's reorganization in 1956, his position as Raja Pramukh or governor also had come to an end. In spite of all these, he continued to be the managing trustee of the Sree Padbhanabha Swami Temple. White V.P. Menon's book, Story of the Integration of States. V.P. Menon was special assistant to the Deputy Prime Minister of India, Sardar Patel. V.P. Menon was a person who was responsible singularly for uniting 560 odd states into the Republic of India. V.P. Menon and Sardar Patel happened to be the persons responsible for conciliation and discussions with native states for consolidating the power of the native states into an Indian union. And V.P. Menon met Chitradinal as well as the ruler of Cochin Ramavarma and entered into separate covenants. As per the covenant executed by V.P. Menon on the 27th of May 1949, the ruler of Travancore, namely Chitradinal, even if his position as Raja or Raja Pramukh ends, he retains the power of Shebait. Shebait simply means just management of the temple affairs without any salary, but at the same time, the ruler or the person who has this Shebait has full power to administer the temple unless and until he surrenders his Shebait right. So, V.P. Menon's covenant of 27th May 1949 with the Travancore ruler and the covenant of 29th May 1949 with the Cochin ruler provided full shelter for the royal houses of Travancore and Cochin to administer their respective family deities or tutelary deities, including Sree Padbhanabha Swami Temple of Travancore. Shebait right was well safeguarded by the judgments made in different rulings of the British Supreme Court as well as in many of the courts in India, particularly the case in 1933 delivered by the full bench of the Calcutta High Court, in which we see that P.B. Gajendra Gadkar, former Chief Justice B.K. Mukherjee, former Chief Justice, and many other judges expressed their views in fully validating the Shebait right given to the person who owned the temple or the property. So this Shebait right, secured by the Travancore royal family based on the covenant of 27 May 1949 is the way which provided the successors or inheritors of the Travancore royal family the right to administer the state without accepting any remuneration, and at the same time caring for, looking after the interests of the deity apart from the staff and other members of the family. The properties, or what you call Padmanaba temple properties, which was used as Padmanaba Swami Temple properties, are also included in this judgment as temple property or temple wealth. The judgment delivered by Lilith and Indar Malhotra clearly bestowed on Travancore royal family and the successive family members the right to govern the state as a prominent member of the Temple Advisory Board. It prescribed a administrative committee with the senior member of the Travancore royal family as the main trustee, besides the chief tantri of the temple, apart from the sub-judge of Trivandrum as the chairman. The committee is also specifically asked to make specific things within the second week of December 2020. Of the directions given by the Supreme Court of India, 25 years of auditing of the temple income and expenditure is a must. They clearly stated that the main trustee is not eligible for any salary or any wealth or any portion of the temple wealth, but he can appoint a person suitable for the management of the temple with a modest salary. The judgment also clearly stated that of the 6 cellar where gold was kept, gold ornaments were kept, one was yet to be opened. It was cellar B. The opening issue of cellar B also to be decided by the administrative committee to be formed by the senior member of the Travancore royal family. The other 5 vaults were already opened and inventoried earlier by or under the supervision of a committee consisting of Justice M.N. Krishnan and Justice C.S. Rajan. Those inventoried items could be well maintained inside the temple. The committee also should see that the 12 crores spent by the government of Kerala is to be repaid, because the government money happened to be the money of the common man, not of the Hindus alone. Therefore, the 12 crores spent for different purposes, including digitalization, etc., had to be returned promptly from the temple funds. And it also clearly stated whether a museum of old ornaments and coins be opened or not. Such things can be decided by the administrative committee. It was also clearly stated that every year by 31st March an audited statement also should be given to the Accountant General about the temple income and expenditure. So it was a remarkable judgment made by Lilith and Indar Malhotra for the future of the Padmanaba Swami Temple. The wealth in question, as I told you earlier, happened to be the wealth donated by different kings and royal family members from time to time. It was primarily the wealth was secured before the temporary proclamation of Chitiri Tirunal, which provided an opportunity for the Dalits and depressed classes to donate to the temple. Before their donations came, as per the 1931 cellar opening, the temple had so much of wealth which we see even today in the form of coins and ornaments used by the god, ornaments used once in a while during festivals, or ornaments used for other purposes. So all these were inventoried except Cellar B, and the issue of Cellar B is to be decided by the new administrative committee. The erstwhile ruler and the head of the royal family proposed an IAS officer for heading the administrative committee, but the court clearly stated that the district judge of Trivandrum is capable because he or she was doing the service meticulously during the last 10 years. The expenditure incurred during the last 8 years in the form of about 12 lakhs has to be paid to the government of Kerala, and the committee now being reconstituted should look after the conventions of the temple as well as the well maintenance of the temple and temple properties, both movable and immovable. So by setting an end to all controversies, all disputes shared by the government or officials or public and devotees, the Supreme Court of India on the 13th of July 2020 clearly stated the future affairs of the Sree Padbhanabha Swami Temple owned by the Travancore royal family, which was in really in limelight as one of the singlest wealthiest temples of the world. This is now without any controversy, as it was delivered by the full bench of the Supreme Court, taking into account its history, its conventions, its practices, including the detailed report submitted by the amicus curiae appointed by the Supreme Court, namely Gopal Subramanian. Gopal Subramanian had submitted a very detailed account about temple practices, the role of the tantris and other officials. All these helped the Supreme Court to arrive at a judgment. So the issue had been settled, and Lord Padmanabha now remains to be the richest lord of the Hindus in the whole globe. This is an account about the history and culture of the Lord Padmanabha Swami Temple in Trivandrum, southern Kerala. And if you like this, you can subscribe and share your ideas. I welcome all of you to hear this to the GK's world. Thank you.